support. I mean, thanks to you, and you continue to support us. Those that are joining us on social media, yours is Ask Muvi. If you've got questions or comments to make, go to the comment section and type your comments as well as your questions, and I'll be able to ask your questions on your behalf to my guest tonight, as we are looking at the performance of the 7th development plan by the Patriotic Front, and also looking at the opinion polls as well as the economic recovery plan. As you must be aware that in 2020, His Excellency President Edgar Chagwa Lungu launched the economic recovery plan, where he said our economy was not doing fine, and so there was a plan that was put in place. And we want to see how far we've gone in recovering our economy. Like I've said, my name is Kelvin Tabula, Chief Focal. My guest on the program, he is an academician, an independent researcher. He goes by the name of Dr. Austin Mwange. Doc, good evening and welcome to this special interview.
Good evening, thank you.
Thank you so much to have you. Like I've mentioned, we've got a lot to discuss, a lot to touch in an hour or so. Let's start with the opinion poll, the opinion polls. We have seen some organization releasing opinion polls. First of all, one may want to understand what is an opinion poll. You are a researcher, you are an academician. What is an opinion poll?
Okay, this is a scientifically done approach or method of trying to get people's, in this particular case, voting behavior or voting patterns, in terms, and maybe the reasons behind those, why they will make that preference, post preferences. Now, this, what is very cardinal for the credibility of an opinion poll, you look at the institution and the individuals conducting it, and the tools that they are using to conduct that opinion poll, and how sampling has been done.
Also, the question that arises when an opinion poll has been published, we know that researchers do take time to come up with these opinion polls. One may also wonder, do opinion polls work?
I think what is very fundamental when it comes to conducting an opinion poll is the scientific way of doing it, the time when it is conducted. So I'll give you an example. There's an opinion poll that was conducted by the Afrobarometer around last year, late last year, and I think they did, according to their study, the views of the people in that study was that President Lungu or the PF will struggle to, or not make it. That was that study. But when you look at that study, you find that I think for now, it was done some time back. A lot of things have happened from that time. And then they did not consider the voters register, the new voters register. You know, when you are conducting an opinion poll, like was done by the Political Science, the University of Zambia Political Science Association, that is one of the most credible way of conducting an opinion poll. I think there's an opinion poll that was also done by I think a consortium of scholars, I think headed by Dr. Brian Mwange, and they used what they call the standards by the Gallup poll. The Gallup poll is an international organization that conducts opinion polls in various areas in the US, and it has predicted almost 99% of the opinion polls have actually turned into reality. So we look at the Political Science Association. They used the voters register for this election that is coming, and they ensured that the person who answered, who responded to the questions was a registered voter and was willing to vote and to take part in the voting. So they divided, they did it in two stages. So they divided the nation into two parts, and those parts find that part one, I think we had Copper Belt included, and a number of strongholds provinces for 5 provinces each. So the first part, we had, I think, the major stronghold for the PF was Copperbelt, and then we had the strongholds for Southern Province also. So in that opinion poll, Stumo, President Lungu, and the PF, they were leading the voters at the time. If they were to vote at that particular time, they would vote for President Lungu. Okay. And the current opinion poll that came out recently, where we found, again, they balanced the provinces based on the strongholds of each political party. And we saw that President Lungu is still leading. And these are very recent opinion polls, and the change, because we are looking at voting behavior, voting patterns, change is very slow. So people's behaviors towards Thursday are likely to be the same as what was in the opinion poll, meaning the President Lungu is expected to carry the day, to win this election. Because those who are involved in this opinion poll, the opinion poll was conducted just recently, very close to the elections. And I think for people to change, because at this particular time, almost everyone is a decided voter. So they conducted the opinion poll at a time when most people had decided, following on various reasons why they would vote for a particular candidate. And it seems to us from the opinion poll that we can generalize that the results for the 2021 elections, which we are going to have on Thursday, will go in favor of President Lungu.
There are people that have cried foul to say, why conducting opinion polls when there are just few days remaining before the polls? Are you these people that conduct these opinion polls, what is their motive behind? Are they trying to persuade or change people's, mind, understanding to say, okay, if they have given this percentage to this candidate, likely even if I'm to cast a vote against this candidate, clearly already they have decided, or they have shown us a picture that this one is winning, it's better I stay away or I don't vote. And people have accused the opinion polls to say they are contributing to vote apathy.
I think serious political parties in developed countries, and we want this also to start happening in Africa. And I meant to believe that the PF should have a research think tank. Also, the UPND, I believe, must have a research think tank. You can conduct opinion polls, not even for publication or publicizing to the public. For instance, the PF can conduct a very private, independent opinion poll using their own researchers, or they can commission it using independent researchers, so that they know how they are faring. You assess yourself. In fact, it is better that way, so that you also, in that opinion poll, you also indicate the areas that people are satisfied, they can check where there are set areas of concern, so that each party, the PF, the UPND, can know what the needs of the people are, and the areas they will look at as they work. And as like for a government that is in power, this is even supposed to be happening frequently, maybe from year one, every year they are conducting that without us even knowing, so that they will know what the needs of the people are in each particular area. But towards the elections, what is very key is, they conduct rallies, or what we have been seeing now, maybe door-to-door campaigns. What message are you going to package for the people of Luapula province, for the people of Northern province, or the people of Southern province, Western province? So when the president goes to campaign in Western province, he needs to have a full package of his successes there and the challenges that people are facing, and how he's going to attend to those challenges in the coming term. So you can only know if you conduct an opinion poll. Similarly, the opposition can do that. Now, that is internal planning. It's supposed to be done. Then when it comes to your question, say now publication of opinion polls, yes, this is a common practice across the globe. You want to know, these institutions, think tanks are there to predict, to know what are the preferences of the people, you see. So I think it cannot even contribute to voter apathy. But what is key, if your opinion poll is not in your favor and you have the time and you want to validate, you can conduct your own opinion poll scientifically so that you get to know what you're doing. But what is with some opinion polls that we can discount? I know here at Muvi TV in 2015, I used to watch your TV station. You were conducting an opinion poll, and I think it was not scientific because you used to give phone numbers, Facebook pages that people should go and click and vote. There was no exclusion criteria. Everyone was free to cast to vote in that opinion poll, and I think they were even giving you very long figures, which you were having like President Hakainde leading by 80 or 90%. And why was it wrong? Because, you know, personally, I have 3 mobile phones, lines, you see, Zamtel, Airtel, and MTN. So if you put a line and say, oh, vote, send a text message, I can send 3 text messages, even if I'm only going to have 1 vote, or I'm not even a registered voter. Or if you use Facebook, I can open several Facebook pages and send. Maybe I'm not even a registered voter. So such kind of opinion polls are bogus, and they cannot predict anything. And we saw what happened even in 2015. President Hakainde lost, President Lungu won.
Not to cut you, Doc, and with the political scientists that you've referred to, you've referred to the issue of giving out numbers as bogus, not having correct figures. What about these opinion polls that have been done in the recent past, like this year? Can we say the people that were conducting these opinion polls were even checking if the person they're asking has got a voter's card?
Yes, I think, this was done by the researchers at the University of Zambia, who are highly trained. UNZA is a think tank. And when you look at the people behind that, those are doctors with PhDs. I know Dr. Masaoso Chirwa and his team. I know them very well, and their qualifications and their experience in research, and an opinion poll is not a big thing to them because they have done, I think, serious and detailed and broad research. So what is very key, if you read their report, is that they have explained how the sampling was done, and they ensured that only those who were registered were able to produce a voter's card and were willing to vote. I can have a voter's card, I have no intention to go and vote, but you included only people, they included only people who are going to vote in this election. So that gives it credibility, and that's what I was trying to say, that there was control to exclude those who are not supposed to be in the sample. And I think that's the way we should go. Same with the opinion poll that we saw by the consortium of academicians, again, from various institutions. So you need to find an exclusion and inclusion criteria that will ensure that those who are not supposed to take part in the opinion poll are excluded. Those who are supposed to take part are the ones included. That's where you get the sample. And then you look at where we are coming from. There are a number of opinion polls that were conducted in 2015. Some did prove the things right, and I think President Lungu won. In 2016, it was the same. Even this time around, if we go by, there will be no structural thing that is likely to happen between today and tomorrow, or up to Thursday, that can lead to people changing their mindsets. Because if you look at the Gallup poll, The other thing people are saying that no, the sample was small. No, this is scientific. You don't need to include everyone. When you include everyone in the sample, it's expensive. And that's what we call census. Now, in this particular sense, it meant that you need to go and include, interview every person who's going to vote. If you look at the Gallup poll, the entire USA is over 300 million people. But what do they use? 1,000 respondents predict the results for the US election. So similarly here, all things being equal, we expect that the scientifically done opinion poll, particularly by even the African Confidential, the African Confidential carries very critical articles of President Lungu sometimes, but you find that when they conducted their opinion poll in a scientific manner, it was indicating that President Lungu is going to lead. When we look at the Economic Intelligence Unit, their scientifically done opinion poll also puts Lungu ahead of the UPND candidate, Mr. Kainde Hichilema. So the opinion polls that you need to question are those that leave it open for everybody to participate. Even non-Zambians online can be sending, you see.
Now that we've talked about the opinion polls and how they are conducted and the significance of opinion polls, let's go to the issue of the 7th National Development Plan, because part of the research and the findings as people were conducting their own research, like Dr. Masauso, they looked at some thematic areas in terms of development and what. And so we want to look at the 7th National Development Plan. Let's start with economic diversification and job creation. How would you rate the performance of the Patriotic Front in regards to the 7th National Development Plan with bulletin economic diversification and job creation? Not forgetting that when the PF were coming into power, they promised people that they're going to create jobs. Have jobs been created in the last 10 years?
Okay, when you look at our country from 1964, we've been a copper-dependent economy. And most economists, our local economists as well as international economists, they have been advising our government to look at economic diversification. So President Kaunda, President Chiluba, President Mwanawasa, and President Rupia Banda, and President Sata, including our current president, they have been looking at diversifying the economy. This has been our song throughout, so that we don't fall into a trap that we keep falling into when there are economic shocks, global economic shocks, like we experienced in 1972-73 when the copper prices went down and oil prices went up, and we found ourselves starting incurring debt, which I think led us into a cycle of debt that I think led to the HIPIC completion point or the Jubilee 2000 campaign. So you saw even each time the copper prices go down, or oil prices, most countries that are dependent on one commodity, they face very serious shocks. So I think the PF government has attempted to actualize economic diversification. So you've seen that in terms of all the sectors, because they looked at tourism, agriculture, energy sector, and let me start with the energy sector. So if you look at the energy sector, there are a number of hydro power plants that were being developed during the period for the PF, and I would mention to you that it was projected, I think even our former president Kavindele indicated, but during the time for President Chiluba, there was a forecast, a study done that Zambia is going to experience a boom in economic activities, which are going to result into load shedding or highest demand for power. So the power that we had was going to be not enough. So there was need immediately after HIPIC completion point to ensure that we diversify our energy sector, we build more power plants, and while building those power plants, it means you are creating jobs for most people. More companies will be set up. But what we saw during President Levi Mwanawasa, may his soul rest in peace, his concentration was on fighting past corruption instead of trying to ensure that they follow the report that was given to them to ensure that the energy sector is diversified. I think former Vice President Kavindele even indicated that there was even plans that can get water from the northern circuit, northern province, Luapula, Bangweulu, using certain tributary channels into the Kafue connecting into Kariba. Those studies are there, but nothing was done. So we lost the opportunity during the period when we had a flow of forex due to HIPIC completion point, and no serious infrastructure development was done during the period for the MMD. So I've seen that if you compare that 20 years and the 10 years, so during this period of infrastructure development, the 10 years robust infrastructure development, jobs have been created, you see. So now you can see that when we look at load shedding, the way we looked at in the negative, to say load shedding is as a result of economic activities that required more power. You see, if we didn't have much economic activity, even the little power that was in Kariba was going to be sufficient. There will be no load shedding. We had a drought in 1993 and other droughts. We are not feeling the load shedding. Why? Because the economy was not developed so much. The economic activities were not there we are not at the level they have been the last 10 years. So there's more demand for power. So government saw it fit to expand the energy sector so that in doing so, jobs are created, and those companies that are using power are also create more jobs. So if you look at even solar plants, mini solar plants are being developed in places like Lunga, and when you look at, that's Luapula province, somewhere in the swamps, and we look at the rural electrification. When you come to Lusaka, think of it. 10 years ago, Lusaka, most of these places where people have built, there were bushes, they didn't need power, you see. So now what we can only request the PF government also is that these other alternative sources of energy, like solar, gas, I think going forward, if like we expect that opinion polls are going to turn into reality, President Lungu, and I appeal to him on behalf of Zambians, that he should take the approach that Frederick Chiluba took when he was trying to solve the problem for transport, the buses. I think he did give like tax-free of bringing in buses for 2 years, if not 3, and we saw buses were flooded. So we request President Lungu to ensure that at least all alternative sources of energies, especially gas, and all appliances that use gas or gas cylinders, gas itself, solar appliances, I think let there be some relief for a duration of 2 or 3 years, so that almost every Zambian in the low income bracket will be able to afford gas stoves. They will be able to afford solar energy, to install solar securities, to the entire house electrified using solar. Just a minute. So when that is done, what is going to happen is that there will be less pressure on the national grid that is using hydro, so that much of the hydro is going to be used for heavy industrial production. So I think that will also help. I know he's passionate about climate change, and you will reduce the use of charcoal, because most of the people, even in places like Mandevu, if it's in Ndola, maybe Chipulukusu and other places, they will now opt to buy solar stoves and gas cylinders and gas itself. So that is going to be very helpful. The other areas, I think, in terms of job creation, I think when it comes to infrastructure, building of schools, roads, hospitals, all these areas have created jobs. The mining industry, look at how government has attempted to save the jobs in the mines. So that has also contributed. When you look also at education and training institutes, trades training institutes, we have the industrial herds in most provincial centers that have been developed. What are these for? They are promoting self-employment, and you also note that the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission is able to fund areas, selected areas that promote diversification and provide employment. There's aqua farming, is it aquaculture, then there's cassava growing, soya beans. A number of people are being supported, youth empowerment programs, women empowerment programs, and these are empowerment programs for job creation in the informal sector.
So when the Patriotic Front launched or came up with the 7th National Development Plan, and they looked at, economic diversification and job creation, what is it that they were looking for? Because right now, where we are seated, the levels of unemployment in this country are about 70%. Teachers, over 50,000 trained teachers have not been employed. So when they talked about employment, what is it that they were talking about?
Okay, I think the spirit of any government, including the Patriotic Front, is to create in the 21st century, is to create enabling environment for the people to have capabilities to create jobs at all levels.
For themselves,
yes.
Not to look to government.
Yes, that's the way forward. That's the new thinking. You said that's the.
So when they were talking about job creation, they were not saying government is going to employ, but people should.
Let me explain. There's the public sector and the private sector. There are those who are employed directly into government. So let me give you this situation. I think if it were in the past, I would not be a university lecturer probably, because there was only UNZA and the CBU. So how did the PF create jobs for more lecturers whom they have trained in various universities and within the country and abroad? They have established a number of universities. So at the time of developing, constructing those universities, there are people who are recruited to construct, right? And the construction process has got multiply effects to other industries. Then once that is done, you find that you need to recruit staff, and staff gets recruited. This happens even in health posts, health education, schools, and now you need to, the government alone cannot absorb everyone. That is true, and no one should lie that any person trained as a medical doctor, as a teacher, should be absorbed by a public institution. There are many schools, yes, that government has put up and is making every effort to absorb as much as possible people trained as teachers. But for us, when we look at the curriculum, most universities have developed even entrepreneurship programs, entrepreneurship courses to support innovative thinking, so that you can use your skills to establish a school. Right now, if you look at hospitals, you saw how even the private hospital, government hospitals have worked together to combat COVID. So what are we saying? The government should create an enabling environment in the public sector, in the private sector, so that the two can flourish in terms of absorbing the various graduates from trade schools as well as from academic institutions. If you look at the trades training institutes under TAVETA, the government has created the industrial yards. You get the skills. Go to Kalingalinga, just here, I think this is in Kalingalinga. You see how people are self-employed. You see, go to most of these roles.
So those are the jobs that the government was talking about.
I think there are various types of jobs.
Yes, so that is one.
It's part of that.
It's part of that, and so
yes.
People are employed, are working. That is creating jobs.
Yes. Let me explain. I think you pick it. I think there are forms of jobs, and I think what is being promoted anywhere in the world is self-employment. And also, if one person, let me give you an example. We have got Dangote. An individual, what has he done? He creates a business which employs several. Who created that enabling environment? Obviously, the Nigerian government. Here we have got Zambif. We've got Trade Kings. We've got a number of businesses. Even people who are building houses, government employees, they are also recruiting people to do work. What matters is how you use the money that you make. Do you know that most of these people who work as bricklayers, who work as carpenters, who work as plumbers, they make more money than people who are employed directly by government. But what we need to improve, especially for us maybe in academics, is financial literacy, how people should use money, know investment opportunities. How do you invest? This is the challenge. I'll give you situations which we find ourselves in sometimes. A person like a footballer gets an opportunity, like we are seeing the young guys in is it Dhaka, parts on Dhaka. You see, these need to be taken care of on how they manage the finances and invest, because a time when they will not be playing football will be there. So this is what we find ourselves, even with people who are in welding, carpentry, opportunities they are prepared. They make buildings, go into these roads, they fly over bridges. Who built them? How much did people make? They earn more than what you do. But it's how to use the money. And that is why there are more lessons by financial institutions that are promoting financial literacy, financial inclusion, so that people are able to develop, so that if one person who just started with maybe a small business to do welding can come up with a big company, which can be a Dangote company, you see, like Dangote, and employ several people, you see. So this is where we are heading to. That's what is supposed to happen. So I'll give you a situation. These universities which government has constructed and upgraded, we have Robert Makasa, Kwame Nkrumah University, Mukuba University, Zikas University, and is it Chalimbana? Yes, they are attracting Zambian students, but it's not the government that should ensure that they attract foreign students, because now they should be attracting foreign students. We need to have a lot of foreign students at UNZA who should bring in Forex to help us cushion the demand for Forex. You see, you can't have one source of Forex. If we go to the hospitals, government has developed teaching hospitals. We have 2 teaching hospitals in Lusaka. In the past, people don't understand a university teaching hospital. A university teaching hospital is not a hospital for looking at ordinary diseases. It's a research center. So it should have space to do research. But in the past, UTH didn't even have room much in terms of, it had too many people. But now, because when you come into Lusaka, look at, during this period for the 7th National Development Plan, the PF has upgraded a number of hospitals in all residential areas and built more, even expanded Levi Mwanawasa. So we expect that these teaching hospitals, Ndola Teaching Hospital, Kitwe Teaching Hospital, yes, they will train the medical doctors locally, but let's also attract more students, doctors from other countries who bring in Forex. These Zambians you see who are going to study in China, UK, in the US, in India, parents are externalizing funds. They are putting also pressure on the dollar. So imagine if we can have also more students coming from other countries, bringing in bringing in dollar in the country. So the universities, government has done its part. It's up to UNZA to market itself to the world. It's up to CBU to market itself to the world. It's up to UTH to market itself to the region. Levi Mwanawasa Teaching Hospital, so that we can have what we are calling medical tourism, so that more students as well as patients seek treatment here, so that we have more money coming into the country using visa. That is part of diversification of the maybe tourism sector, especially that when you look at the other areas, we look at is the transport sector. I think this, it speaks for it. PF, I think on this one, we can't even talk about it. We have 2 international airports. When you look at international airports, don't focus so much on passengers. Yes, we appreciate more passengers, especially foreign tourists who bring in forex. But look at the cargo aspect as well. Bigger planes who bring in cargo for the region, just here in Zambia, or others for the region, they'll be able to pick stuff from Ndola, from Lusaka. So that in itself is also trying to provide jobs, create and provide opportunities for raising forex.
Let's talk about agriculture, because according to the 7th National Development Plan and on the economic diversification and job creation, agriculture was mentioned. And this is what they say. They talked about improve production and productivity, improve access to finance for production and exports, enhance agricultural value chains, promote diversification within the agricultural sector, enhance investment in agricultural infrastructure, promote small-scale agriculture.
Yes. So when you look at these strategies that were put in the 7th National Development Plan, I'll give you one which I think very, very interesting. I didn't know that cassava is being used to make mosi. You see? So when we toured the Zambian breweries, we learned that Zambian breweries is promoting the growing of cassava in Luapula province, and so many people are growing cassava. So they are adding value to the growth of cassava. And then there are a red market for cassava. And in that particular way, we are saying this is a great achievement. And working hand in hand with the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission, you got for, I think I visited some place in Luapula where some family was funded by CEC to raise, for aquaculture. So I find that they are able to rear or to grow fish. So now when you look at diversification of the agriculture sector, what is the main crop we used to learn even at primary school? It was maize. And now you find that there are more crops people are moving into, and now they are being processed. Do you see the simple way of adding value to some of the products? People would say, oh, let me go to ShopRite and buy peanut butter. Peanut butter, you can easily get it now at Soweto or another market, because the trades training institutes that government has established have trained people now to make I think how we can grind the groundnut. So right there and then they'll make for you in a clean manner and at an affordable price. You see, if it's pounded or powdered groundnuts, it's easy. Do you see a lot of people using Otuvende or Mota these days? You see, you go in ShopRite, go on the section for mealie meal, you find various types of mealie meal. Oh, this is cassava, this is millet. That is value addition. You know, agriculture, I'm picking basic crops, which we know. We have the growing of rose flowers. People are moving into growing of soya beans. In terms of livestock, see the breeds that are being supported for domestic chickens to grow them in a domestic manner and faster, and increasing export. So all that is part of diversifying the agriculture sector. When we also consider the investments in terms of infrastructure in agriculture, I think how to look at the roads that lead to the sources of supply. There are rural roads also that have been worked on, so they are linked to the sources of market. So
and people are still complaining that economic roads have not been touched.
no,
Other economic roads have not been worked on.
all roads are economic roads. What we should understand is that there's been a slow pace in terms of managing I think debt sustainability levels. So find that certain projects were halted, but we still support, like I heard the president. For me, I was really looking forward to the Ndola dual carriageway when there were plans and launching it, and there was a lot of heavy criticisms by, we were hoping that this period the president was going to launch the Ndola dual carriageway. But I'm happy that when he was in Ndola officiating at the commissioning of the Simon Mansaka Pwepo, he indicated that works will commence soon for the Ndola dual carriageway. So that will bring in more jobs and more businesses that will be located along that road. But if you look at the Central Province, this is an agriculture area. Copper Belt is becoming an agricultural place, diversifying the Copper Belt, farmers being given land, and a number of people who are traditionally farmers migrating from Southern Province to Copper Belt rural, and big companies. Recently we saw the president visiting some farm in Kabwe, where I think there are huge combine harvesters. They process the potatoes, onions, all that. So we can say there's been a success in implementation of the 7th National Development Plan in areas that were indicated in the mining sector, tourism sector, the energy sector, the transport sector.
Doc, I know that we are just remaining with very few minutes to go. Also, still on the 7th National Development Plan, I'll just ask this question, or I'll go through and then you pick and talk about this. Poverty and vulnerability reduction, reducing developmental inequalities, enhancing human development, creating a conducive governance environment for a diversified and inclusive economy. Poverty and vulnerability reduction, reducing developmental inequalities. Where are we now in terms of the 7th National Development Plan in, addressing the challenges that government was able to see that with poverty and vulnerability, there is something that we need to do in order to reduce it, issues to do with reducing developmental inequalities. Up to now, there are other provinces that are still crying for more roads, more hospitals, more health, posts, enhancing human development. Where are we in terms of developing our human resource so that they become self-reliant, and also creating a conducive governance environment for a diversified and inclusive economy?
Okay, I want to give you, to answer those three, especially poverty and vulnerability reduction, inequality, and enhancing human development, because the three are linked. We have what we call the human development approach, and I think this is what the PF has been using. The human development approach, where you define development in terms of looking at what is happening to life expectancy, what is happening to maybe education, health, you see. So as at now, the life expectancy for a child born today, life expectancy is 63.9 years. This was very low. I'm sure you know that in the past, 10 years ago, it wasn't like this. So what causes life expectancy to go up? What causes life expectancy? There's a link between health and education and income. And these people can be so vulnerable in terms of accessing education, accessing health, accessing income. And there can be inequalities in all these, including gender inequality. But look at the first policy in terms of ensuring that people can have access to education. We know that the fees have been removed, certain fees, to allow most children access basic education or primary education. Then there's been efforts by the patriotic government to promote early childhood education. I think they have done so well in that area. There are a number of projects that have been implemented to support early childhood education. Remember, early childhood education, preschool kind of was a preserve of the rich. Most people just used to start school in grade 1 without having passed through early childhood interventions. These are being promoted now. Some experts that have been working on this and working with government in Zambia and the region. So when you promote education and more people are educated, you expect that their way of thinking, their way of living and addressing health issues improves. That improves their livelihood. When you look at health facilities, the health facilities I think have been promoted, have been developed. We're from health posts. Here in Lusaka, because most of you can easily go to any hospital, private or public, so you don't even understand what it means to have a health post. It means a lot to rural areas. I've been watching on TV how women, when you look at inequality here, you find that there are issues to do with maternal health. These have been taken care of, and the 7th National Development's main theme is focusing on inclusive development, where everyone, women especially and children who are vulnerable, are taken care of, the elderly. So we have seen that efforts have been made, and we expect more efforts to be done to provide health services, increasing opportunities to make money, to reduce the costs of doing business. People can move these days. I think almost every place in Zambia can be reached in one day from Lusaka. That reduces the cost of doing business. Because in the past, you need to find where to sleep, maybe 2 days traveling, so you spend unnecessarily on food and the like. Your goods also take long to reach, but now they can reach the rural places. Most people are watching Muvi TV, even in rural areas. Why? Because the inequality has been reduced. Muvi TV is not for the people of Lusaka. People have access to phones. When you look at financial inclusion, when you look at a mobile phone, don't just look at it as a mobile phone for just making a call. You guys can have smartphones, fine, but even just a basic phone without any much internet, but just network. So the PF government has put a number of towers so that the whole country is covered. Why are they doing that? It's to promote financial inclusion so that the people in the rural areas can receive and send money at a lower cost and conduct their business activities. And also they can have access to electricity under rural electrification and solar energy that I think even MTN and other suppliers do, and people will be able to watch Muvi, improving livelihoods. So when you look at development, the way we look at development, enhancing human development, one economist, a Nobel laureate, Amartya Sen, says development is freedom, improving people's capabilities, improving people's freedoms, freedom of choice. So if...
And you feel the PF has managed?
Yes, the
PF... people's freedom.
Yes, PF has managed to improve freedoms for people to make choices on which hospital to go to, which school to go to, which network to use, when to send, when to receive money. The markets are available. So the freedoms are being improved, and we expect this to continue. If you look at financial inclusion, the latest report indicates that there's been an improvement. So there's a relationship between reducing poverty through financial and financial inclusion. So development should be looked, or enhancing human development should be looked at also from the point of improving people's capabilities to do things. People now, their mindset have improved. Go in town, they will tell you, we have to work hard to earn a living. We expect government to support us. People will say, oh, President, provide us with facilities, help us with roads. Why do they want roads? Because they want to do business. Why do they want health facility? Because they want to be health productive so they can do work. Why do people want education? Because they want to be empowered to be able to make decisions that will help them run their businesses. So in that particular sense, we are improving people's lives, people's choices. Today, I'll give you a basic example. Many people have choices either to go to this clinic, that if you live like in Jesmondin area, you can say you are going like when there was COVID vaccine. I would have gone to Unza clinic. I'll say, okay, let me go to Ngombe clinic. Let me get to Kalingalinga clinic. So it's the same. So let me go to Levy Hospital. You see? Improving people's choices. When people have limited choices, that is not development. Even if you have high GDP and a stable or strong currency, but people have less freedoms to choose how they should live their lives, where they should build houses, where they should borrow money, access to borrowing. These civil servants who were given a debt swap, first thing, they should thank government that government worked so hard to give an enabling environment for them to have access to credit. Having access to credit is an indicator of development. Imagine if Zambians had no access to credit, what will happen? They will not build the houses people have in Minwood. Most of these houses that people have built in all residential areas, forms of residential areas, if you go to a taxi driver, most of them now own those taxis are theirs. The thinking has changed. They are also building wherever they stay in a low, if it's in a low density area, medium density, high density area, everyone, because of access to credit. Now what we need is, how do you manage credit? That is where for us as lecturers now should focus on teaching how people should manage credit. Financial literacy, very key. Investment literacy, very key. These are the areas that these institutions where we are working that have been created by government, we should do now provide proper education to the people. And like waiting that government is going to, because yes, government has helped debt swap, very good thing. I think it gives relief to the borrowers. Now we have to go further to say, okay, going forward, how do you manage your finances? And in that, so that you don't fall into a debt trap.
Doc, I know that time is not with us. We have to go. We have to conclude. Maybe I'll give you time to just give us your concluding remarks, even as we have looked at the 7th National Development Plan, and also maybe looking at the Economic Recovery Plan, where we are and where we were, where we are, and how the picture is, moving forward. And maybe you can say that in maybe 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, what I would just say is that my main thinking, which is my own thinking, and I want to emphasize, is that there's a relationship between having stable economic policies and also a stable government like we have had, like we have. So, the economic recovery program that was drafted by the Patriotic Front, and that was also part to the negotiation for the bailout package for the IMF, is a program that Zambians should believe in, because it's going to promote restoring and safeguarding livelihoods by bringing in macro stability, economic diversification, and debt stability. So the right people to implement this program so that our economy can benefit from the global boom that we are anticipating after the COVID challenge. It's the Patriotic Front. They are the ones who developed it. They are the ones who have negotiated with the IMF. They are
Even
the
if
ones.
haven't been given a bailout.
The signal is there that the IMF has shown confidence in the Patriotic Front government by giving a signal that they are going to provide a bailout package, and have appreciated the economic recovery program. So the danger that we face is that if in the most unlikely event that there was change of government, you expect that these technocrats who took part in the negotiations, as African politics are, most of them will be fired. There will be new people who may not even understand the economic recovery program, who will be knowing it at the time they are being sworn in. So we expect that the technocrats that we presently have, who took part in the drafting, the hot negotiations that were there the last 5 years, should continue with President Lungu leading the way to implementing this. And what is very key is that President Lungu will focus on living a very vibrant and stable economy. He will not be doing politics. Like if in the most unlikely event, someone else came in, will start trying to cement power, to say, okay, in 2026, I must win. I don't have enough MPs. Let me start now fiscal expansion in terms of having more by-elections. You have more by-elections. The IMF doesn't want you to do fiscal expansion, follow the conditionality. So you're going to lose the chance to implement the economy.
Maybe that is the reason why IMF has, delayed in giving us, because we had a lot of induced by-elections.
No. I think the IMF, they've been discussing smoothly with government. So for now, when they have reached a conclusion, because if they did not want to give the package, they would not have even given a signal, but they appreciate the works that the current government has done.
Thank you so much, Doc. Let me appreciate you. We have to go. We only had an hour or so, and we've already exhausted an hour that was given to us. Thank you so much for making an appearance.
Thank you.
And wishing you all the best as you continue with your research.
Thank you for hosting me.
There you have it. This has been a political advert or a sponsored program by the Patriot Front, and we've been looking at the PF's developmental agenda in the last 5 years, and we've looked at the 7th National Development Plan, also the opinion polls, as well as the Economic Recovery Plan. My guest has been Dr. Austin